The call comes in late morning, local time. An automated debris tracker has flagged an object, cataloged but unpredicted, crossing the exclusion corridor in the lower orbital band, a few hundred kilometers up. The climber is minutes from that zone, ascending with a full cargo load. Protocol demands an immediate hold, but the climber can't brake quickly without stressing the tether. It can slow marginally. It can descend, but only if the load is jettisoned or safely transferred, and there is no transfer platform at this altitude. The operations lead has moments to decide. The question is not technical. The question is, who gets the kill switch in a crisis? No space elevator exists today. The materials have not been demonstrated at the required performance and scale. The engineering is unproven. No dedicated globally agreed framework specific to elevators exists yet. But the conversation has already begun quietly in insurance offices and treaty working groups and port authority feasibility studies, because the implications are not theoretical. A functioning elevator could compress the cost of reaching orbit significantly, estimates vary widely, and in doing so it would redistribute power in ways that are only beginning to be understood. This is not a story about whether we can build it. This is a story about what happens if we do. The concept is older than the space age itself. A tether, extending past geostationary orbit, held taut by centrifugal force, with climbers ascending the cable like freight trains on a vertical track. A near-equatorial anchor is required for classic geostationary-based architectures. Alternative concepts exist but add complexity. No fuel burned after the initial construction. No explosive launches. Just steady, mechanical ascent. The appeal is economic. Launch costs today remain high, disputed depending on reusability assumptions, but still measured in thousands of dollars per kilogram. An elevator, in theory, could reduce that substantially, though by how much remains an open question. The appeal is also logistical. Satellites, station modules, fuel depots, even human passengers, lifted on a schedule as predictable as a commuter rail. But the constraints are formidable, and they begin with the cable itself. The cable must be light enough not to collapse under its own weight, yet strong enough to support climbers, cargo, and dynamic loads from wind, thermal expansion, and oscillation. Carbon nanotubes have been proposed. So have graphene composites. Laboratory samples have demonstrated tensile strength in the range required, but only at microscopic scale. Producing thousands of kilometers of continuous, defect-free material remains an unknown. A single flaw, a misalignment of atoms, could propagate into catastrophic failure. The cable is not the only challenge. It is simply the most visible one. Consider the anchor platform. Many proposals favor offshore platforms. Equatorial landmasses present political and geological complications. An offshore anchor means a mobile platform, station kept against ocean currents, storms, and the immense lateral forces transmitted down the cable when a climber accelerates or when the tether oscillates. The platform requires station-keeping thrusters, real-time positioning accurate to meters, and a power supply sufficient to maintain stability indefinitely. It becomes, in effect, a floating border checkpoint in international waters, and the question of national sovereignty follows immediately. Whose flag does it fly? Whose laws apply? If it is stationary, does it claim territorial waters? If it moves, even slightly, does it retain jurisdiction? Then there is debris. Low Earth orbit is crowded. Tracking systems monitor tens of thousands of objects. Estimates suggest hundreds of thousands more exist below the threshold of detection. The cable presents a target unlike anything currently in space. It is static, vast, and cannot maneuver. Debris tracking integration becomes essential, but collision modeling remains speculative. Mitigation strategies include active tracking and minor adjustments to the cable's orientation using propulsion at the counterweight. And the operational question remains unresolved. After the first debris graze, who shuts it down? Engineers, insurers, or governments? The climber itself is a system of considerable complexity. It must grip the cable without damaging it, manage power for ascent, dissipate heat in a vacuum, and protect cargo from radiation and thermal swings. Early concepts assumed power would be beamed from the ground, likely via laser or microwave. The power beaming optics required are precise. Atmospheric distortion, cloud cover, and alignment errors all reduce efficiency. Onboard batteries provide backup, but add weight. Redundant power systems are essential. So are inspection drones, small autonomous units that travel the cable independently, scanning for wear, impact damage, or manufacturing defects. The inspection schedule must be continuous. A cable under tension does not forgive neglect. Spooling equipment and precision winding during initial deployment are equally critical. A flaw introduced during installation could compromise the entire structure. Amalia is a station-keeping technician on the anchor platform. She has worked offshore oil rigs for years before transferring to this, the first operational elevator in this hypothetical future. Her job is to monitor thruster performance and respond to positioning drift. The work is repetitive until it is not. One morning, a squall line moves faster than forecast. Wind shear transmits up the cable, inducing oscillation. The platform begins to shift. Thrusters fire automatically, but fuel consumption spikes. She has to decide whether to burn reserves or accept positional drift that could misalign the climber track. She makes the call to burn. Later, she learns that the fuel margin for the next resupply window is now critically thin. No one tells her she was wrong. No one says she was right. The uncertainty is built into the job. Weather at the anchor site is a persistent variable. Equatorial waters experience cyclones, though less frequently than higher latitudes. The platform must survive extreme conditions or evacuate and sever the cable. An emergency severing system is not optional. It consists of explosive charges, redundant triggers, and a decision tree that must account for climber position, cargo value, and reconnection feasibility. Severing the cable means losing the counterweight, losing any climbers aloft, and potentially decades of investment. Not severing risks the anchor platform and everyone aboard. The protocol is clear in theory. In practice, the call is moral. If access is rationed, what's the priority order? Medicine, commercial, military? The question is posed in working groups before the first cable is deployed. There is no consensus. Medical payloads seem ethically clear, but commercial entities argue that revenue sustains operations. Military clients point to security guarantees that protect the elevator itself. In Phase 1, during initial operations, access is limited by climber availability. Only a small number of climbers exist, moving slowly, each ascent taking days. A queue forms. Priority is assigned by contract, but contracts were written in peacetime. When a regional conflict escalates, a government requisitions capacity. The operator complies. Other clients file arbitration. The elevator is still new. The economic model depends on volume. Construction costs are substantial, estimate only. Revenue must come from sustained, high-frequency launches. But a single elevator is, by definition, a monopoly shaped like a cable, unless designed not to be. Competing elevators require separate anchor platforms, separate exclusion zones, separate regulatory agreements. The capital barrier is prohibitive. Even if a second elevator is built, the first mover has entrenched advantages. Pricing becomes geopolitical. A state-sponsored operator can subsidize access for allies, restrict it for rivals, or manipulate rates to undercut commercial space launch industries in other nations. Pricing changes overnight, not because of supply and demand, but because of diplomacy or coercion. The economic case assumes stability. Stability is not guaranteed. Luca works for a reinsurance firm in Zurich. His job is to model tail risk for the space elevator syndicate. He does not underwrite the policy directly. That is handled by a consortium. But when a climber fails mid-ascent, when debris strikes the cable, when the anchor platform drifts off station, his models determine whether the insurers can pay. The insurance and reinsurance structure for such a system is unprecedented. He reads engineering reports he does not fully understand. He assigns probabilities to events that have never occurred. One afternoon, he receives a scenario. A climber collision causes cable severance. The counterweight detaches and drifts. The lower section falls, burning through the atmosphere, fragments landing across the Pacific. Under space liability law, who pays when something goes wrong? Liability frameworks exist, but applying them to a hybrid maritime private elevator operating in international waters could be contested. Luca flags the scenario as uninsurable under current terms. The consortium threatens to move coverage to a less cautious firm. His supervisor overrides him. The policy is renewed. Phase 2 assumes operational maturity. Multiple climbers, faster ascent, refined materials, and expanded capacity. Demand grows. Small nations, previously dependent on foreign launch providers, begin to book slots for their own satellite programs. Yara manages the space program for a small country. Her budget is limited. A single launch on a traditional rocket would consume years of funding. The elevator offers access at a fraction of the cost estimate, and she books a slot well in advance. Weeks before launch, she is notified that her slot has been reassigned due to priority override. No compensation is offered. The contract includes a force majeure clause. She has no legal recourse. Her satellite, designed to monitor coastal erosion and support disaster response, remains on the ground. She does not rebook. The cost of uncertainty is higher than the cost of access. The debris problem does not stabilize. As elevator traffic increases, so does the volume of material moving through contested orbital zones. A climber releases a satellite at geostationary altitude. The separation is routine, but a propulsion anomaly leaves the satellite in a degraded orbit. It becomes debris. Weeks later, it crosses the elevator's path. The tracking system flags it. The climber is ordered to pause. Revenue is lost. The satellite operator is liable in theory, but the litigation will take years. The debris remains. Repair robotics are deployed, small units capable of patching cable damage or clearing minor obstructions, but they are not designed for large-scale salvage. The cable is inspected. Surface damage is found. The affected section is rated for reduced load. Capacity drops until repairs are completed. The repairs take months. Commander Ifioma is a naval officer assigned to security monitoring near the anchor platform. Her ship patrols the exclusion zone, enforcing the no-approach perimeter. Most days, the work is uneventful. She tracks fishing vessels, cargo ships, and the occasional private yacht that strays too close. One night, a small craft enters the zone without responding to hails. It maneuvers toward the platform. She escalates to ready status. The craft stops, holds position, then retreats. No weapon is deployed. No hostile act is confirmed. But the intent is unclear. Her report triggers a policy review. The exclusion zone is widened. Patrol frequency is doubled. The cost is absorbed by the consortium, then passed to clients. Security is now a permanent line item. The question of whether the elevator is critical infrastructure or a private asset remains unresolved. In Phase 3, the elevator is no longer experimental. It is infrastructure. Supply chains depend on it. Telecommunications constellations are deployed via its capacity. Fuel depots in orbit are resupplied on a schedule. A generation of engineers has trained on its systems. But the governance gap has widened. The elevator is still operated by a private consortium, still flagged to a jurisdiction with minimal oversight, still subject to contracts that prioritize profit and flexibility over equitable access. International calls for regulation have stalled. Proposals for a multilateral treaty have been drafted, debated, and deferred. The reason is not technical. The reason is that no consensus exists on who should control access to orbit when access is no longer constrained by fuel and thrust, but by bandwidth on a single cable. The question is whether governance can move fast enough before the choke point becomes a weapon. If the elevator is nationalized, it becomes an extension of state power, subject to embargo, sanction, or militarization. If it remains private, it is subject to market forces that do not account for equity or security. If it is internationalized, it requires a regulatory body with enforcement capability, funding, and political independence that no current institution possesses. The options are all imperfect. The stakes are accelerating. Tomas is a night shift engineer responsible for monitoring climber telemetry. He sits in a control room time zones away from the anchor platform, watching data streams that update every second. Most anomalies resolve themselves. Sensor noise, thermal fluctuations, minor vibration. But one night, a pattern emerges that does not fit the model. The climber is decelerating without input. Power draw is normal. Grip pressure is normal. But speed is dropping. He runs diagnostics. Nothing. He alerts the day team. They find it hours later, a firmware error in the climber's control system, a rounding bug introduced in a recent routine update. The climber is commanded to halt, then returned to the platform. The cargo is delayed. The bug is patched. The incident does not make the news. Tomas writes the report and returns to his shift. He wonders how many other errors are dormant, waiting for the right conditions to surface. The best case is transformative. Costs fall. Access expands. Scientific research accelerates. Orbital manufacturing becomes viable. A permanent presence in space transitions from ambition to infrastructure. Climate monitoring, asteroid resource assessment, deep space logistics all become cheaper, faster, more routine. The elevator, in this version, is the catalyst for a new era of exploration and development, managed wisely, governed fairly, accessible to nations and enterprises that were previously excluded. The worst case is concentration. A single point of failure. A single point of control. Access becomes leverage. The elevator is weaponized, not with explosives, but with denial. Rival powers are excluded. Smaller nations are priced out or subjected to conditions that compromise sovereignty. Technical failures cascade into economic disruption. A severed cable becomes a recovery effort measured in years. The promise of open access curdles into a system that entrenches inequality and centralizes power in ways that are difficult to reverse. The middle path is messier. The elevator works, mostly. Costs drop, but not as much as projected. Access expands, but unevenly. Governance lags. Policies are reactive. Some clients thrive. Others are excluded by price, priority, or politics. Technical problems are managed, but never fully solved. Debris remains a threat. Weather remains a variable. The elevator becomes another infrastructure system, neither utopian nor dystopian, but fraught with the same tensions that define every system built by human hands and operated under human judgment. The awe is warranted. A cable stretching beyond the atmosphere, held taut by physics and ambition, would be an achievement that redefines what is possible. But the sobriety is necessary. The harder problem is not the cable. It is the governance. It is deciding in advance how access will be managed, how conflicts will be resolved, how safety will be prioritized, and who will have the authority to make those calls when the system is under stress and the stakes are measured in lives, economies, and the trajectory of human presence in space. The real frontier is not the climb. It is the agreement we make before the first climber ascends. Even a partially real elevator, even one that operates at a fraction of its theoretical capacity, forces new rules. It forces us to answer questions we have deferred. It makes visible the tensions between access and control, between efficiency and equity, between the engineering that makes the system possible and the governance that determines who it serves. The cable is a challenge of materials. The system is a challenge of trust. And trust, unlike carbon nanotubes, cannot be synthesized in a lab.